South China Morning Post, 28 February 2024, the EU fails to enact legislation mandating environmental and human rights audits of Chinese suppliers. China bribed European Union members to obstruct a vote to protect human rights. Wednesday, the European Union could not reach a consensus on a contentious legislation that would have imposed liability on significant corporations for environmental and human rights violations occurring within their supply chains. The regulations would have mandated that European Union companies with a global net turnover of €150 million, $162.7 million, or more than 500 employees perform comprehensive audits of their partners and suppliers, including those in China. In addition, non-EU firms with a net turnover in Europe exceeding €150 million would be included in the extension 3 years after their initial implementation. Nevertheless, a vote of the 27 members of the bloc held in Brussels on Wednesday failed to secure the qualified majority to approve the regulations. Diplomatic sources confirmed that 10 countries, including significant members Germany and Italy, abstained. At the same time, Sweden voted against the rules, bringing it below the 14 member states whose populations represented at least 65% of the Union's citizens that were required to do so. A French diplomat affirmed that Paris had proposed increasing the threshold for companies included in the directive to those with a workforce exceeding 5,000 individuals. This motion may now require re-evaluation as negotiators return to the negotiating table. The Belgian government currently holds the rotating EU presidency and stated that the required support could not be located. We will assess the current situation and determine whether it is feasible to address the concerns raised by member states in collaboration with the European Parliament. The primary negotiator for the file at the European Parliament, Laura Walters, described herself as outraged by the vote. "I am enraged by the political antics conducted today in the European Council regarding due diligence, flagrantly disregarding the European Parliament. Time is running out for member states to get their act together," the Dutch lawmaker wrote on X. An EU diplomat stated that members abstained for fear of an uneven playing field on the global stage and administrative burden concerns. Europe's pro-business political parties were apprehensive regarding the potential administrative onerousness that the regulations might impose. Companies had also cautioned that compliance with the laws would have put them at a competitive disadvantage vis-à-vis non-compliant businesses. A prior decision, slated for February 9, was postponed due to the abstention declarations of member states, including Italy and Germany. It is the most recent in a sequence of proposed EU environmental regulations EU capitals have rejected in the run-up to the June elections for the European Parliament. Due to the difficulty of obtaining comprehensive supplier information in China, it would have been particularly challenging for businesses to comply with the due diligence law. Already, European enterprises are scrambling to determine how to comply with the stringent regulations governing the export of domestically gathered data and Beijing's anti-espionage legislation. Non-compliant businesses with the proposed EU regulations could have faced legal action from affected groups or substantial financial penalties. Additionally, they would have been compelled to sever supplier relationships if the negative consequences could not be remedied. The potential for the law to impose excessive administrative burdens and disproportionate liabilities on companies has been criticized by Chinese businesses. In a written submission to the EU in 2022, the China Chamber of Commerce stated, "The most problematic aspect of the proposal is that it requires subject companies to conduct due diligence along their entire value chains, both directly and indirectly, at a level that exceeds their control and capabilities." According to media reports, Italy abstained from the due diligence law in exchange for Germany suspending support for a law regulating plastic packaging. In February, Germany's last-gasp abstention sparked a frenzy among business figures, advocates, and legislators who supported the law. Andrew Forrest, chairman of Australian mining conglomerate Fortescue, advised the Financial Times, "Do not adopt the Human Rights Corporate Responsibility Directive if you want to ensure that all your supply chains lead directly back to China, or if you wish to continue melancholy and wailing about it without taking any action." Other business executives, however, were less receptive. In a recent interview, Christian Bruch, chief executive officer of Siemens Energy, stated that the €150 million threshold for non-EU operators would provide an advantage to Chinese competitors. He stated that while European companies were obligated to conduct comprehensive audits of their sub-suppliers, Chinese competitors who enter the market with a complete product might not be subject to the same scrutiny. In the interim, European Council and Parliament negotiators will attempt to reach an agreement next week on a prohibition on forced labor, another law that does not explicitly target China but will affect a disproportionate number of Chinese businesses due to concerns over forced labor practices in the Xinjiang region. A compromise appears difficult here as well. Divergent opinions exist regarding the appropriate governing body for a prohibition, with specific member states of the European Union advocating for the European Commission to assume responsibility. However, sources for the Commission lament that they are severely understaffed. Senior Green Party lawmaker Heidi Hautala stated that the Council had 2 weeks to develop an alternative strategy. Failure to do so would postpone the matter until after the elections. Delaying the directive until the following term would compromise the entire legislative endeavor. Currently, highest-level political will and leadership are required to break the impasse, she stated. Hautala stated that the Free Democrats, a minority German coalition party, had achieved success in its sabotage and dragged along several member states in its endeavors,